there's so much coming at me from this conference. It's like drinking from a fire hose and I don't know what to do with it all. Ah! Have you ever been to a conference and you feel just like that? Like it's super encouraging. It's so good, but it is so much information that you feel like I don't know what to do as a result of what I've learned. Hey, my name is Eric with a K, and I'm the host of the Practical Youth Ministry Tips podcast. And I have been there. I have been there where I go to a conference, and I love conferences. If I could be, I'd be a conference junkie because it's just so encouraging, right? But you go, and that phrase, I've heard it so many times. I think I hear it literally at every conference. It's like drinking from a fire hose.
You get to drink from the fire hose!
Which is not healthy. It's not good for you to drink from a fire hose. But there's so much coming that it all gets lost, right? And so today I want to talk about how to maximize your conference experience, how to get the most out of it and walk away with some actionable steps of what to do to implement some of the things that you learned at the conference. Some of my friends were just at the Orange Conference, and I'm heading up this week, so just after this is posted, to Thrive Conference, where I get to speak run a few seminars. I'm super excited about that. And I know, even though I'm going to be one of the speakers, I'm going to sit in on the main sessions, and it's going to be a lot. So I want to help you to get the most out of whatever conference that it is you are going to, especially those that kind of equip you with some tools, things that you can actually implement into your ministry. So let's jump into it. There's something called choice paralysis or paradox of choice, which basically means when there's a lot of options, it's really difficult to choose. And I have been to some amazing youth ministry conferences where the breakouts, there's like 80 plus breakouts, and trying to choose from those. And so maybe you go with a team of people from your church and you're like, okay, you go to this one, we'll share each other's notes, which honestly, I don't know that I've ever actually done anything with somebody else's notes. Being there, hearing it, that's where I'm going to learn the most. Looking at somebody else's notes actually I can't think of a single time where I've gone, oh man, this was really good. I'm glad I got these notes from something I didn't experience. But that's probably just on me from my learning style. But anyhow, it's this, when there's so many choices, it's really difficult to choose, right? It's why In-N-Out and Chick-fil-A work so well, because they have a limited menu. And you just go up and In-N-Out, it's burgers. What kind of burger do you want? Do you want the double-double?
That sounds good. I'll have that.
There's not a ton of options. In-N-Out or Chick-fil-A has a few more options, but it's all chicken, some salads, whatever, right? But it makes it easier to choose. That's how it is with a conference. When there's less options, it's easier to make that choice. So let's walk through how to get the most out of this, no matter how many options there are for you to jump into. I've had the experience where I've walked into a conference and I've been so encouraged and just feel inspired and from the main sessions and the breakouts, and I've taken tons of notes, and I've walked away and I've not applied anything. And that's so frustrating, right? Because we want to apply all of it, but trying to apply all of it ends up meaning that you don't apply any of it. So I think one of the things when you go to a conference is beforehand, prepping yourself going into the conference. Go with a plan. Most conferences nowadays have an app, or you can see the schedule online. You can see all the breakouts online. Make a decision, and this isn't a hard, fast rule, like you don't have to stick to it, but make a decision beforehand. Look through all of the breakout sessions you want to go. Think about the different kinds of sessions that you want to attend, and check mark or write down some of them have really great apps where you can create your own schedule based on, you click on the thing you want to go to. Sometimes you have to sign up for a breakout ahead of time and they only let in because there's limited space or whatever. But to do that beforehand, I think is really helpful. And I like to take a variety of breakouts. Like I love communication, so I always try to find some session, some seminar breakout on communication, because I always want to hone that craft, right? I try to find something in that's a very actionable, very practical youth ministry thing. Small group, or how to work with video, or something that's very like a specific thing that I can use. And then I try to find something that's just going to be encouraging. I do love to get together with people if I go with a team to talk about what we learned, so we can share some things and like, oh, this is really good. But having that plan ahead of time, I think, is going to be really, really helpful to set you up for success. So when you go to the conference, when you're actually there, get your schedule, make sure you look at it, plan it out, you've got it all set up, then start doing that. Now, like I said, there's no hard, fast rule that says you have to go to those. You can change. If you have a friend that you haven't seen in a while, you want to go to the same seminars, that stuff is fine. But I want to encourage you to take notes. Whatever you want to use to take notes, whether you have like just a journal, or you use an iPad, or you bust out your laptop, whatever it is, take notes. One of the things that I love to do, I love using Notability, which I'll put a link to that video where I kind of did a review on Notability. Has been really helpful. It's what I use to preach from, but I also take notes in Notability. And so I can go back to that, and it lets you kind of categorize my speaking or my note taking, conferences, whatever. So I take notes, and then one of the things I do, like for actionable items, is I will make this kind of I'll not, instead of circling something I want to come back to, I make this zigzag kind of shape around it. Something my friend Todd Gorton always does, and years ago he was doing that at a conference, and I was like, oh, I like that. So I adapted that into how I've done it it's been a couple decades now. That's been really helpful for me for retaining stuff that I've been learning. We learn lots of different ways, but the more ways we can apply, like we learn by hearing, we learn by seeing, we learn by writing, we learn by experiencing. And if you can mix as many of those together, the more you do, the more likely you are to retain that. So I always love to take notes on things that I want to make sure that I am going to come back to, I'm going to learn, I want to grow in. The other thing while I'm at the conference is I want to network with other people. Not just focus just on if I'm going with a team, which isn't always the case, but to network with other people, meet somebody. So when you sit down in a breakout or a main session or whatever, meet the people sitting next to you.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too.
That has potential to be some sort of like a great connection in the future. I went to 2 conferences last year, and I met a guy at the first conference in Colorado, and then we were back together again at the next conference, like 2 months later. And I was like, dude, so good to see you. It was really fun to just reconnect again right after that. I have friends in ministry that I've been connected to for many years, all because we sat and connected, we networked during a conference. And not like that crazy network where you got to go hand out a business card everywhere you go.
Here are my new business cards.
Connecting with somebody else and then asking them about their ministry, not to compare notes as far as like who's got a bigger ministry or whatever, but to go, hey, how do you run your ministry? I'd love to learn from you. Like learning from somebody else who is also doing ministry and maybe doing it a different way is really, really helpful, because it will push you to think about how you do what you do. What kind of strategy are you using? Is there purpose behind the way you come about ministry?
Why do you do that?
So finding from somebody else, the same thing I think is really good. So networking, I think, is really critical when you go to a conference. And then the final piece is walking from like the very end of the conference into the post-conference. And like I said in the beginning, I have done so many of these fire hose type of conferences where I walked away with really being encouraged, but didn't have anything to do with I didn't do anything as a result. But then a number of years ago, when they ran the Simply Youth Ministry Conference, I remember our denomination, we got together on the last day, and one of the things we did, everybody that was part of our denomination, we had a separate room, and our national youth director said, hey, partner up with somebody, and I want you to talk about 1 to 3 actionable items from this conference that you're actually going to put into action in your ministry. And so we had some time on our own to write down the things that we want to do or go back and like put it onto one page. And then we talked with our partner about what we were going to do. And then we exchanged, if we didn't know them already, we exchanged contact information. And we said, hey, in 1 month and in 3 months and 6 months, let's put it on our calendars. Because if we put it on our calendar, that means it's important, right? To contact each other and see how are we doing with our action steps for implementing the things that we learned at the conference.
Hey, how you doing?
There's some accountability there that is actually a really positive thing that I believe can be really helpful for you in your conference that you're going to go to at some point, whenever that is. Talk to somebody, write it down, talk to somebody, tell them what you're going to do, and then put it on your calendar to follow up. Then start working on your post-conference plan, right? That's where, okay, what are the things I need to do to set up for success to be able to implement these 1, 2, or 3 things that I want to do with my ministry?
What's your plan?
I'd say a number of things I think I would encourage you to do to actually make that a reality. Write out what you want to do, meet with your team, volunteers, whatever, and talk about the ideas that you came back with and how you want to implement them. Talk to your supervisor. Let your supervisor know, here's the things that and that's actually a really helpful thing for them to hear. Okay, we sent you to a conference and you're coming back and it's actually making an impact on the ministry you're running. So that's a really good thing. But also there's some accountability there as well. And then start putting it onto your calendar. Like I said, it gets on your calendar, it means it's important, right? Put it on your calendar for some deadlines as to what you want to do along the way to make that a reality. And then follow up with your partner from the conference at the 1, 3, and 6 month follow-up moments and see how you guys are doing. And if you haven't implemented it yet, don't feel a sense of guilt. Just go, okay, I'm going to do it now. Here's my next step to get the ball rolling, to make it actually happen. I would love to hear, what are your best practices when you go to a conference? How do you best retain the information? And is there something that I could learn? Maybe you can put something today that I can grab for this conference that I'm going to this week. I would love that. If this has been encouraging, helpful to you, and you think somebody else could benefit from hearing and watching this video, would you click the share button? Also, if this is your first time watching here, I want to give you a free gift. I wrote an ebook on games and a companion audiobook, like why we do games in ministry, a bunch of low prep and no prep games, and 15 best practices for running the games and crushing it, making you a really great game leader. Would love to give that as a gift for you. That's in a link in the description below. Otherwise, I will see you again right back here next week. See ya.